My hydrangea has been looking really good this year, and I'd like to preserve some of that high summer colour to enjoy in the winter. Hello there, I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. Now, if you love all things flower arranging with a little bit of crafting and charity shopping thrown in too, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. All you need to do is to tap the button marked subscribe, and that means next time you open the YouTube app on your phone, your tablet or your computer, one of my videos will be waiting for you. Now, the question of the day is, when is it the right time to pick your hydrangea to dry them for some autumn and winter colour? Last year I literally only had about 3 blooms on this hydrangea, and so a friend was very kind and she let me cut from her hydrangea bush so I could have a little bit of winter colour inside to enjoy. But this year I've got a fabulous array of flowers, but I need to decide whether it's the right time to cut my flowers. If you cut them too early to dry, they're going to flop and they're going to be no use at all. What you need to look for in your stems is the tiny little flowers. So the pink petals aren't actually petals, they're bract. The flower is really tiny and just tiny flecks of white on my hydrangea. So you need to make sure that the flower has flowered and it's ready to set seed, and that will give you an idea of when your hydrangeas are ready to pick. And for me, I normally pick my hydrangeas for drying mid-September, but as it's been spectacularly hot over certain weeks of the summer this year, I think perhaps I might be able to pick my hydrangeas now at the end of August. You can see that some of the hydrangea heads are actually starting to dry out. They've lost some of that vibrant colour. So here's the vibrant pink, where you can still see the white flecks of the little flower heads. And here is a stem that's started to dry naturally. I wouldn't advise letting your hydrangeas dry naturally on the bush, because eventually they'll just fade and decay. So if you want to dry your hydrangeas, you need to cut them, crop them, enjoy them as cut flowers, and then slowly over time they'll start to dry out. I like to cut my hydrangeas on as long a stem as possible so that I can be more creative with them in the vase. So here goes 2 for the price of 1 there. Now you can see that some of the bush doesn't have any flower heads at all, and apparently you can take cuttings from the shoots that don't have any flowers, but that's another story. Let me know in the comments whether you'd like me to investigate how to take cuttings from your hydrangea so you can grow your own plants and have even more hydrangeas in your garden. So I've managed to cut myself quite a bunch. So what I'm going to do is go indoors, strip off these leaves and find myself a vase so I can enjoy the flowers as they start to dry. I've got myself a vase with a small amount of water in the bottom, and then you just add your flowers. Taking off the green leaves, these will just shrivel to nothing. Oh. then you just sit back and admire your flowers. So first of all, it's a vase of fresh flowers, and over time your hydrangeas will slowly take up water and dry out. These are the flowers that I dried last year or possibly the year before. And even though I've kept them out of direct sunlight, over time they do fade out to this parchment shade. But I can still see little tinges of pink and blue. I could keep my flowers like this, giving them a tap to dust them off. Well, I thought actually I might inject some colour in them and perhaps bring them back to life with some spray paint. As you can see, I've laid out a dust sheet on my lawn. It's always best when you're using spray paint to use them in a well-ventilated place, and the garden's perfect for this. But of course you don't want to end up with multicoloured stripes across your perfect lawn. Now I have just gone into my stash of spray paint and tried to find shades in the pinky reddish tones. So I've got 3 cans of Oasis spray paint, which has been specially designed to use with fresh and dried flowers, and a can of plastic oak paint as well. But as you'll see later on in the video, the nozzle had dried up, so I wasn't able to use it. So protecting your hands from the paint, so I've picked up my bouquet of the dried hydrangeas and hidden them in my hand, trying to protect my legs as well. You just have a go. So it's a matter of shaking up your can of paint and squirting, rather than getting 100% coverage, just getting a little bit of colour here and there. Now, a couple of times my paint landed in splotches, but I've been noticing as I've been looking at hydrangeas in my neighbourhood that actually they do naturally have a little bit of colour splotch in them when they start to dry. So as you can see, I'm just trying to rotate the flower heads around, a little bit of puff here and a puff there and a puff there, just to get layers of paint starting to build up. If you're interested in sourcing similar colours to the one I've used, I'll leave links to my paints in the description underneath the video. I had a violet, a fuchsia pink, and then this cranberry red as well. As I said, the pink was not very successful, and I have in previous years used a little bit of white too. When you're using your spray paints, try and embrace your inner graffiti artist with confident, strong but short bursts of colour. And the great thing about spray paint, if you think you've been too heavy-handed, just go back in with another paint and go back over to bleach out or reduce the impact of the colour. It's quite fun to do, and in fact the hardest thing is probably deciding when to stop. So just make sure you do cover all sides of your flowers, including underneath too. This is the spray paint I had difficulty with. Nothing wrong with this paint itself, it's just I don't think I cleaned the nozzle off when I stored it the previous time I'd used it. The more variations in tone of the spray paint, I think the more natural look you get, because your flowers will never be a solid colour. So try all your leftover paints, perhaps even a little bit of gold, copper. Pretty impressive, eh? So how about we do a little bit of before and after? I think it's well worth extending the life of your dried hydrangeas by giving them a little bit of a lift with some spray paint. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you prefer colour to your dried flowers or that pale bleached look? And when I bring in my natural hydrangeas, can you see how good the colour match is? If you decide to have a go at drying your own hydrangeas, let me know how you get on in the comments. And better still, why don't you share your photographs in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World? And if you love all things flower arranging and can't get to a flower arranging class near you, why don't you consider becoming a member of my YouTube group? You pay a monthly membership fee direct to YouTube and get access to my monthly online flower arranging club. Well, that's all for me for now, and I'll see you again next time.